All right, we're back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to CptsLogs podcast, the show everything aviation and more. I think it hasn't been that long, but we'll see how we feel about this. But it's good to be back here with the Mark Attack. How you doing, bud?
The Mark Attack. So you ended up giving me a nickname, even though I denied it for all those.
Have you not seen the video? Like, I sent you a video of the actual logo and the video. Did you not see it? How it came out? Like, I sent it to you. It was within the last podcast session. And it came out really good with transition. Like,
I
so
guess
whenever
I
you
missed it.
So you said Mark Attack, and I actually was able to put it in a really nice transition. It came out really well. So,
What'd you send it to?
So Mark watches his own podcast. Obviously, you can tell. You can tell.
I'm not a narcissist.
But anyways, it's good to be back. I'm back here in Arizona for a couple days or so, for a week or so, and I wanted to bring or start a new, basically, session to talk about something that I'm very interested in when it comes to general aviation and aviation, obviously, but owning your own aircraft. Something that something I've always wanted to do. Is probably my my retirement dream, but I'm gonna try and see what I can do to make it happen earlier. So today we brought on a very, very, very important, we can say, VIP guest.
VIP. How you like that?
A VIP.
Do you want to introduce this VIP, Mark?
So this is my good friend Steve Lusfesky.
It's close. It's the Losefsky. Losefsky.
I tried to go too fast.
It's all good. It's a great last name.
It is.
Yes, Polish.
Yeah, my name is, you know what my last name is?
I don't.
So, Tolo, which I recently found out. I've always thought it was French throughout my entire life. And apparently it's Scottish.
Oh.
It does sound French.
It does sound French, but maybe I'm saying it incorrectly. It's Tulloch, which will make more sense when you think about the Scottish portion of it.
Is that how you're supposed to say it?
Apparently, but I don't know. But apparently 2 Scottish brothers went to Jamaica and just got based on the data of research, and that's where it
Interesting.
came from. But anyways, let me cut it off. Continue, Mark. Continue, Steve. Anyways, it's good to have you here, Steve.
Great to be here.
Absolutely.
Thanks for the invite.
Do you want to? How do you guys know each other? If you want to do a quick intro.
So we've heard lots of stories of our flying adventures. I don't know if you've listened to the podcast or
I
not.
have, yes.
And actually some even pictures of flying into what was that airport with the
Up in the Four Corners?
Yeah.
So flying into the cliff? Yeah, that was awesome.
I can't think of it now, but we showed some pictures of that, and along with that landing. If you remember that.
Oh,
the video was on there.
Yeah, I did put that on the podcast.
Oh, great. You had to include that, huh?
Oh, well, it was funny. You know, I blamed it on all the right reasons, and it wasn't us.
Yeah. Never us.
So we'll definitely we'll talk about that. Actually, talk about that scenario as well. But so Steve is our guest, and today we're gonna talk about aircraft ownership, the process to be able to acquire your own aircraft. Something that I definitely want to get into and learn about. The cost and expense to operate an aircraft, which is not, a lot of times people think, hey, you buy an aircraft just like buying a car, and then you're good to go. Even though there's some cost when it comes to vehicles as well, but airplanes tend to be generally a little more expensive. So
yep.
You'll get some good insights as we move forward in the podcast to learn about that. And Steve, I'm really happy to have you here, man. So welcome.
Great. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your captain speaking. Apply heading 230, runway 27 left. Clear for takeoff. Turn right heading 060. Descend and maintain 5,000.
All right, Mark. How did you and Steve meet?
So he actually owned a company called Information Strategy Design a while ago, and I was working as a contractor for a client that his company ultimately ended up taking over.
Okay.
So by default, they allowed me to join along to keep doing what I was doing for the client, and then along the way we merged with another company, and he still works there. I still do my job, and we found out pretty quick that we were both pilots. And I think there was a few months there I walked to the office wondering, is this guy ever gonna take me flying or what? Because I knew he had a plane. And eventually he did. He invited me, and I think he realized maybe I could be at least tolerable as somebody to fly with, and we've been
Flying
ever since. Yeah,
for sure.
See, I'm lucky because your wife gets a little airsick.
Yes, my wife's never actually sat in my airplane.
Oh, really?
Yeah, much less flown in it. She's never even sat in it.
Oh wow, I didn't
Okay.
know that. I figured she would have at least tried.
Nope.
Awesome. So before we get to so you actually own the company is actually the one you actually initially met was actually your company.
Yeah,
you owned
correct. Yep.
It? Awesome. So you
Yeah.
started what is it in IT?
Yep. Started IT 1996. I moved to Arizona from New Jersey.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Started IT company, owned it up until I think 2019, and then was acquired by a PE group.
Okay.
And still work for the company today.
Okay. And you're what's your position with the company?
COO today.
Oh, very nice.
Yep.
Very awesome, man. Awesome. That's pretty cool. You just always wanted to be. You just always want to get into aviation. Is that what it is throughout?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. As a little kid, didn't think about it much, but started once I got out of college. Had a couple bucks and started taking some lessons in New Jersey out of a
interesting.
small airport called Lincoln Park, and then moved to Arizona, started my own business, and had no money for a few years. So I actually didn't get my license for a while. Then picked it back up here in Arizona and finally got my private license.
Awesome.
So what year did you start?
I probably started in 94, 95.
Do you remember what you were paying back then, like instructor wise?
Like your first lesson was in 95. You're saying?
Yeah.
Wow.
My first lesson is 95. I bet you it was around, I want to say $75 an hour, maybe a little less, with plane and instructor.
With the plane and
Yeah.
instructor?
Yeah.
Shoot.
Yeah.
That's an instructor now.
Oh yeah.
$75 an hour.
Just for the instructor.
Yeah.
Directly. God. Man, that's amazing. I listen to these guys like when I fly around. Some of those, close to getting retired pilots. I want to use the word old, but
Yeah, because we're getting
Mature.
mature. There we go.
there. Season.
And they tell me how much they pay for their private, and they're like, "Oh, I pay like $4K in my private or my instrument." I was like, "Man, get out of here with that nonsense." No,
Yeah.
but that's pretty
reasonable.
awesome. New Jersey's that's interesting. I've never really met anybody. Usually, people in Florida or Arizona. How was that in New Jersey? That flight school there, and that was a while back still, but still.
Yeah, it was great. It was uncontrolled field, really small airport, just west of New York City,
Okay.
kind of close to Caldwell Airport, where JFK flew out of.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But really crowded airspace.
That's what I was thinking.
yeah.
Yeah, it would get kind of squirrely.
Yeah. What aircraft was it? Sorry.
It was a 172, Cessna 172.
Oh, okay.
But some great flights. I remember some night flights. Cruising over to the Hudson. Crossing over the top of the George Washington Bridge at night, and you can go down this nice VFR corridor.
Yeah.
Do a loop around the Statue of Liberty, and then
really?
you're literally facing the Twin Towers. You're not even like halfway up.
Wow.
At night. It's just really spectacular.
The arrival. That's interesting. I never. You can go around the Statue of Liberty.
Back then, yeah.
Wow. That's cool.
Well, that's
I-
it. That's a dangerous corridor too if you're not flying
busy.
it right.
Yep.
There was that baseball player who had bought a Cirrus or something, and
Yeah.
he was trying to do the turnaround,
Correct.
but he did it with wind on his back, and it blew him
Oh, really?
off course and into a building. Yeah.
Because the corridor is. So I'm assuming that.
Got really narrow.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and you have to turn around at that point,
Correct.
right? Or you're
Yeah.
gonna bust a Bravo.
Yeah, I
or
mean, you're
something.
like LaGuardia,
Yeah.
Newark, JFK. You're in some really tight
Yeah,
airspace, and then
absolutely,
you've got
man.
all these helicopters cruising across
Oh, yeah.
from
There's
Jersey to New
another
York.
accident not too long ago where
nuts.
a plane collided with a helicopter, a sightseeing helicopter there. What was that, like a few years ago or
Yeah, a
so?
couple years ago. Yeah. Was it two planes? Yeah, that's right. I remember that specifically.
Ugh.
When it died, but there's a
Glad you made it, Steve.
Yeah, thanks.
but even like in the regional or even the airlines going into those airports, sometimes the arrival brings you over to like the Hudson. You do like a little nice transition into the airport there, in the view and whatnot. It's really really nice. But even then, it's stressful as hell, and those controllers don't play around.
Yeah.
So, that's pretty cool. Awesome, man. Arizona. So you got your certificate here in Arizona. When was that?
Yeah, probably 2002.
2002.
Yep.
Okay. How much? Can I ask you that? I'm curious. Like,
What's that?
generally, how much that overall it cost you by then in 2002?
I don't remember because it was, I probably had about 20, 25 hours in New Jersey.
Okay.
So I really just had to finish up. It wasn't
Wow.
start to finish.
What airport was it here? Was it?
Chandler.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Yeah. There used to be a flight school at the base of the tower. That's not there anymore.
And you got your certificate in 97 Victor,
In 97 Victor, yes.
which is an airplane we've been in. We've actually took that flying once.
Yeah. Got
It's
my,
still
With
out
you?
there. Yeah, it's in the
Oh, okay.
pool of the airplanes that I rent over there, and
And it's still around?
we
around?
both
it
been in
is.
it. Yeah,
Okay, interesting.
it's a good plane. Good plane.
Yep.
Awesome, man.
But I bet I didn't pay more than $4,000 all in. What
Total?
I got total. Be my guess. Yep.
Yeah. How much you pay, Mark? How much you still pay?
How much am I still paid? Indeed. I think for private Part 141, I mean, you paid the same.
Yeah.
Almost probably 10 or 11,000.
Yeah. And UND, University of North Dakota, they keep the average. So I'll give you like a comparison to the average of what everybody else, might have paid throughout, their time frame and whatnot. And they'll say, okay, if you meet this cost amount, you're at average standard, or you're above average, or you're below average of cost, and so forth. And it was just a little tad. I think it was just below average of like 9K, just under like over 9K or something like that for my private, something like that. So
Yeah, that's why I was thinking about 10. I think I ran a little over because I had some times where I had to make stuff up.
well,
just
today
'cause
it's more. It's
now it's closer to 11, 12.
12. Yeah. So today is like average is 12K just to get your private pilot, which is absolutely.
Well, and with
outrageous.
141 programs, typically too, you also have the ground school. So you have this dedicated ground school you're going to,
Yeah.
2-3 times a week, 2-3 hours a day. So you're paying for that as well.
Yeah, but that's a one-time. I mean, you pay that. That's a
I'm
one-time
trying to make
cost.
myself feel better, dude. Don't talk me off the
Absolutely.
ledge.
Yeah. Awesome, man.
So when you studied then, Steve, were you just doing the ground school on your own?
Yeah. I think when I was in New Jersey, I actually took one of those weekend ground courses
Okay.
before I started flying. Like I kind of did that first because
Okay,
I had
smart.
I had no, like I knew nothing,
Yeah.
right? So I'm like, hey, let me go get this weekend ground school and at least cram a little bit of knowledge in. So at least I
Absolutely.
know some of the lingo. But I did that first, so I got my written out of the way
I'm smart.
and then started flying. I didn't know anything. I was,
Yeah, that must have been tough. Because I kind of like studied on my own just out of interest. But so I kind of was familiar with a little bit going in. But just being like, hey, I'm going to become a pilot and then start ground school must have been like, oh.
Yeah. I'm like, MSL, what's what? MSL?
What is that now? Awesome, man. Cool. So currently you have a private pilot.
Correct.
Do you have any other?
Just high performance.
High performance?
I'm guilty of the great weather in the Southwest, not
Yeah.
getting my instrument ticket.
Yes.
Because it's always.
Well, you don't want to do, unless you have. I mean, even with somebody beside you, you really don't want to do. You can still do instrument flying and VFR or VMC condition
Yep.
flying, but even then, you don't want to be doing IMC like instrument flying by yourself.
For sure.
Maybe you do. I don't know. I don't.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
No.
I think we talked about that. You wouldn't either. But there's also times where it's like, oh, we want to go to San Diego in the morning, and I want to bust through that cloud layer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're VMC up until about
Yeah.
5 minutes to the your final approach, and you bust through a cloud, so you're in the IMC for 3 minutes, 4 minutes.
Yeah. There's so it depends on. We'll talk about your aircraft and its equipment and so forth, and my opinion, it depends on the aircraft, your aircraft equipment and so forth you're flying. If you get an aircraft that manages a lot of the things for you, you can just press a button. Single pilot, you're okay. We can go. Okay, I want you to intercept this course, and you press a button, and it does it for you, and autopilot, and you're fine. But if you got to turn, twist, tie, and all that stuff, it is not a good idea, people. I'm telling you, don't be going out there. But there are people that do it. But I'm just saying,
He's pampered. Airline pampered over here.
I'm just saying,
No.
single pilot, even it's just single pilot. I'm just saying, it's not a.
I think it's personal minimums, right?
It
That's
is,
what it
yeah.
comes down to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because people do it, but whatever. Anyways, Steve, you're getting my gist here. You're gonna see what kind of pilot I am. So what kind of aircraft you currently? So let me start off with, when did you decide, at what point? Because I'm trying to figure this out for myself. When did you decide at one point, okay, I'm gonna get an aircraft, and it's and I guess the real main word is I can afford it, and so forth.
Yeah. It was pretty quick after I got my private pilot license. I think I had my license for maybe 2 years, and I had a friend who was had a Musketeer.
Oh, nice.
And he bought it to build hours. He wanted to get an airline job, and he was just going through his overhaul, right? So he was spending I think at the time his $20,000 to get his engine overhauled.
Oh, jeez.
And he was like, "Wow, that's really expensive. Maybe I do want a partner in my plane." So I said, "Hey, finish your overhaul, get a couple hours on it, make sure it's good, and then I'll think about joining you." And that's basically what I did. I partnered with him first, so I bought into 50% of the Musketeer, which is really an inexpensive platform to start out on. I mean, as basic can get.
Absolutely.
So built some hours on that. He eventually did get his airline job and wasn't making any money, so I ended up buying him out of that plane because he couldn't afford it anymore.
That was a key sentence right there. Sad. It really was. Okay, awesome. Because so you initially got into like a partnership program.
Correct.
That's how you started. Okay, that's smart. And then so you had the Musketeer.
Had the Musketeer,
and then from that point on, you continue by yourself, 100% ownership, and
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So the Musketeer. Excuse me. You know what a Musketeer is?
Oh yeah, only because he's pointed them out to me before.
Yeah.
It's just a low wing single engine.
Most people know him as a Sundowner, right? It's the precursor to the Sundowner. So low wing. This one happened to be a 200 horsepower.
Oh. Wow.
So it had a little bit bigger engine in it. So wasn't fast by any means, but it was a good platform.
Okay. How long you have that for? How long did you keep it for?
I probably had that about 10 years.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Maybe I'm starting off too big.
And I'm going to I'll diverge on a little story here. So I'll protect the innocent here with names, but
it wasn't me. We didn't know each other.
I'm looking forward to this.
Had another pilot who was flying the plane, who I was not a partner in the plane, but was checked out and flew it a lot. And so I was with my son at a baseball game on a Saturday morning, and my phone kept ringing, and it was this person. I'm like, call him later. I'll call him later. And then after like the fourth call, my wife called me, and I said, I got to answer the wife. And I said, hey, what's going on? She goes, will you pick up your phone, please? I'm like, yeah, okay. So I pick up the phone, and on the other end, the person flying the plane goes, hey, do you happen to know the name of the insurance company?
Oh, no.
And I go, the insurance company for what? And he goes, the airplane? I go, what do you need that for? And he goes, I think I wrecked the plane.
You think you wrecked it?
And that was my response. I go, you think you wrecked it? And then there was a pause, and he goes, no, I wrecked the plane.
That's funny. So what happened with that? What did he do? Can you say what he did? Or
Yeah. So he was going mountain biking up in Sedona and picked up a friend. We usually pull the back seats out of the Musketeer and throw. You could fit 2 mountain bikes up there, and they're going to go riding. And he was a retired military pilot, and the friend that he picked up was a retired military pilot, and they both decided to go up to Sedona. And as most pilots do when they're flying, you say to your buddy, hey, you want to fly? And so the other guy goes, yeah, sure, I'll fly.
Right.
Of course, never flown that platform before. And so they flew up to Sedona, and most people, when they get within 5 or 7 miles of the airport, my plane, right? I take it back. Well, he didn't. And he says, we were crossing over the top of the airport, and he looked good, so I just kept talking to him and walking him through the approach, and we got we got downwind, and everything looked fine, and we turned final, and the speeds looked good, and we were at a good altitude, and everything looked good, and he literally let him fly it down to the end of the runway. And Sedona, things can get a little squirrely at the end there. You're on a platform.
Stories too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I guess they caught some wind and came down hard on one on the one side on the gear and bounced. And at that time, the pilot in command tried to take the plane back. The co-pilot didn't give it back.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so they basically fought each other and attempted to go around, but ended up basically sliding off the side of the runway. And
Bad deal.
Very
That
fortunate.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, nobody got hurt, right?
There's not a lot of room for error there.
No.
You go off the
Yeah,
side of the cliff and
They slid off the runway in what direction? Towards the
Towards well, they slid off towards the the GA tarmac right there.
Oh, okay.
So it kind of went in the ditch, and yeah, so I got to go up there, and it's kind of funny because I'm a pretty laid back guy, and I really was. Listen, it is just an airplane,
Yeah.
right? There's emotion there, but I saw them at the restaurant, and they kind of looked at me like, okay, is this guy going to freak out on us, or
Yeah.
what are we going to
Yeah.
get? And so I said, hey, I'm really glad you guys are okay. I said, where's the airplane? They go, that's behind the hangar. So I go behind the hangar and see the plane there, and the landing gear's in a pile over here,
Oh,
and the wings are
God.
separated, and the nose is down. And I was like, wow, they wrecked
they
it.
think they wrecked it.
Yeah.
I think I wrecked the plane.
So, I walked back in, and I said, hey, listen, I'm just going to say 3 things about this, and then I'm done. I'm not going to bring it up again. I said, 1, thank goodness nobody got hurt, right? You didn't get hurt. Nobody else, at the airport got hurt. That's great. I said, number 2, thanks for wrecking the plane, right? Because I'm not going to be able. There's no argument with the insurance company. It's not like we're going to try to fix this.
Oh, yeah.
It's toast. It's done.
Absolutely.
And then I said, and third, today's Saturday, but on Monday, I'm going to call my state senator, and whatever of my tax dollars went to training you 2 idiots how to fly, I want it back. Which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah,
right?
military guys.
Yeah, military guys.
Yeah.
Thousands of hours, right?
Oh God.
They saw no humor in that.
Hey, they deserved it though.
Yeah,
I mean,
they did. They earned it.
They
That's
wrecked
funny.
your plane, and
Yep.
you slammed them once.
Yep.
Very good. Yeah.
Yeah, but my learning experience there was my laziness in managing my insurance policy for the airplane actually helped me out, because when I bought the plane, I insured it for what I paid for it, and I never adjusted the insured value.
Right.
And the one thing I didn't know is, unlike auto insurance, when you wreck an airplane, it's whatever you insured it for, they give you.
Oh,
There's no fair
Blue book
market
value,
value.
yeah.
It's nothing like that. It's like, hey, you had it insured for this. Here's your check.
Oh,
So
really? I didn't know.
in some respect, they did me a favor, because I got more for the plane than I ever would have if I at the time had sold it on the market.
interesting.
Yeah, because that is interesting. And generally, aircraft, depending on what it is, they they can go up in value in a sense, right? What do you think about
Yeah,
that?
for sure. Like I have a 182 now, and I certainly, based on the market today, would get significantly more than I paid for it. But at the time, that plane, that
Yeah.
platform, no, there was.
Awesome. Yeah. Interesting. So you with that point, I'm assuming so with the FAA came, probably the NTSB. What do you have to do with some process with that?
Yeah, not me. I only had a deal with the insurance company. The gentleman flying the plane had a deal with the
Okay.
FAA. So obviously had a bunch of reports. Had to do a check ride with the
really?
FAA. Yep.
God. Yeah. I'm not sure if Mark told you our little story or situation. Not an incident.
Situation.
Yeah, a situation over there in Sedona as well. Nothing we did wrong or anything like that. It's on the podcast as well, but I'm okay saying it. Talking about it. I don't care because it's important. But we didn't do anything wrong. But we're taking off in the Sirius, 315 horsepower.
Yep.
The airport was in Sedona, conveniently. And the Sirius turbo, because your aircraft is also turbo.
No, mine's not.
Oh, it's not turbo?
Mm-mm.
Okay. And it has a turbo kick when you're like halfway, kicks you back a bit, Happens all the time. So I usually wait for it. I'll add the power and I'll wait for it, and then I'll increase the power because there's a lot of torque that goes with it. This time around, we're coming out of Sedona, going back to Scottsdale, and I was doing the same thing. Added the power, a little torque. As soon as the torque kicks in, it pushed me backing up where my seat went all the way back.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking like dangling back there.
Right.
Luckily, Mark here was a competent pilot.
Keyword competent.
Yes. Where I was able to say, "Hey, get on the brake," and he was able to get on the brake quick enough. Because I don't know if I would have had time thinking about it, based on how the aircraft is configured and how you adjust your seat and whatnot, to be able to get up there and get on the brake. I guess I could have pulled the emergency brake.
Right.
But even then, I don't know if I was even thinking about it. But anyways, so that, I mean, oh god. So I'm pretty sure at FAA, I'm like, okay, you need to go do a check ride again. That would have been horrible. I don't know.
If so, yeah, I don't know.
Or what, NTSB or whatever. Anyways, but you know, these are the things. It's a little different. Like I'm trying to explain to people in general aviation, because I've been in GA for a while as well as an instructor and so forth. And there is a unknown level of safety that in GA unless you've been into it, you can't really comprehend. And I wouldn't. The only reason I know this because I fly for the airline is so much level of safety, automation, all this thing that goes in there. So you get a level of more threshold of safety compared to go back into the GA. I feel like all that stuff just goes away, and then it's really just you. So
it is, yeah, exactly. It's you.
Absolutely. So it's for somebody like that flies for the airline. It's harder for me compared to somebody like you,
Sure,
who you're probably more confident in GA than I will ever be able to get back and do.
Yeah,
be.
yeah.
Even though how many times I try, how much I fly, you know, unless I just get out of the airline that's just only do GA.
Yeah,
you know,
I'm sure that's gonna happen. That's where all the money is.
You know,
Well,
so
yeah, and I get it too. I mean, even as a private pilot, you know, I learned how to fly at an uncontrolled airport, right? So I was very comfortable at an uncontrolled airport.
absolutely.
And I was not as comfortable talking on the radio going to controlled
Right.
airports, right? And then I see people just the opposite, that, you know, they go through their private, all they do is fly
Absolutely.
controlled airports, and then they got to go to an uncontrolled, and they're like, oh my gosh,
Absolutely.
who am I talking to, right? I'm on my
Right.
own.
That's a good point. It's interesting. Like even certain level, the experience in aviation is so diverse. You have a captain that he has thousands of hours, you know, and he's been in the airline for 20 years, you know, and because he's so experienced and senior in the airline, he gets to pick a specific schedule all the time, and he gets it all the time.
Right.
So that's what he does all the time. He doesn't do anything else. He goes to this airport, the same schedule he does all the time. That's what he. As soon as you switch that on him, it's like, I want to say,
It's falls apart.
oh man, it's like
Skill level
you're
goes-
watching, dude. It's like a lot of the more experienced captains or even first officers tends to avoid doing like I'm talking about like American, those platforms. It tends to avoid doing like the Mexican trips and going to Mexico and so forth. And
Yep.
there's a lot of hassle doing that stuff. So when they do get it, it's the same thing you're saying. Like it's like, you know, an uncontrolled pilot in an uncontrolled airport trying to speak. They have no idea what to do and what's going on. You know, so my experience is very interesting how that goes. But anyways, okay, so we'll get back on. Very interesting. It was a good story. Interesting. Well, hopefully people can get some.
Yeah. You know, I keep trying to get him to submit that to AOPA, you know, like the never again story.
Yeah.
He won't do it. But he doesn't have to name himself, right? I mean, it's a good learning lesson, right? I mean, that's listen, we're taught well, right? And obviously the military trains their pilots very well. And, you know, you may be a little bit overconfident.
Absolutely.
Right?
Well, and going through the CFI stuff now, there's a difference between flying and flying next to another person who knows how to fly, and there's another skill base on being able to take control of something when it's going wrong. So if they were going to do that, you know, a little bit of instructor knowledge would have been helpful for that person who you wanted to let fly the plane, because they would have briefed things like, all right, yeah, I'm going to let you fly, but here's how we're going to exchange controls. And if you hear me say my controls, they're my controls, and you let go no matter what. Just things like that.
Was he an instructor?
No.
But he's been he said he's an ex-military pilot.
Both.
Yeah.
So he's had that experience, both of them.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you were thought, okay, if I say my controls
Well,
are
true.
out,
That's, yeah,
you're thinking
absolutely.
experience, okay, I'm going to let go. I'm not going to hold on to the thing and crash me into the ground.
That's
But
very true. He's got to be.
Yeah.
who knows what can go? Yeah, but who knows? You know what was going on?
Yeah. The my plane thing is funny. I was flying with another friend of mine who had never flown before, and I took him up around Lake Roosevelt. We were coming down the river there, and losing some altitude. It was getting kind of bumpy, and he was picking up speed. So I'm like, we're getting a little fast here for the turbulence. And so I got on the controls and I go, my plane. And he's like, still got the death grip, because you know how new deal. He's got the death grip.
Yeah.
He's just looking straight ahead. And I go, second time, my plane, right? He's still holding on, like looking forward. And I go, my plane. And he goes, I know it's your goddamn plane. You don't have to tell me.
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah, I believe that. Are you listening to this, Mark? This is gonna be you here.
Oh yeah, no, I know.
Go ahead.
Well, I took friends up flying a few weeks ago. They were in town, and I'll send you the picture. You could add it to the podcast, but you can see in the picture he's just both hands like. And I'm like, dude, yeah, you only have to hold it like this, man. I'm like, just like you used to when you were a little kid, just finger and thumb.
Yeah. Well, the thing I was that's the important point he was kind of making there is, you getting in there as an instructor, you're gonna be using words and terms and so forth that you're used to, and you expect other pilots to understand what you're saying and so forth. You're gonna go up with a guy and you say my control, and he's gonna look. They can look at you like, huh? What you saying? And when you're on a short final.
Right.
When you're in a short final coming in and you go my control, the last thing you need is somebody going, well, what are you looking over and trying to say? When I was teaching my Chinese students, it was a known occurrence, so we had to anticipate that. When you say anything, it doesn't matter how or low you are to the ground, they'll stop and look at you. I said, what did you say? So you have to be able to anticipate that. So just be ready for that kind of stuff, Mark.
Thanks.
All right, awesome, fun stuff.
So going back, so then get the Musketeer incident. Then,
yeah.
How did you come about from how long was it from there to getting the plane that you have now? Was it like right away? Like what was how did you find it?
It was probably a 3-month process.
But you started looking right away.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Did you know what you wanted? How did you land on the 182?
I didn't I wasn't really sure. I was actually looking at Bonanza and 182, right? So I kind of had a budget in mind, how much I wanted to spend, and then was like, okay, well, how fast can I go, right? And how many people can I comfortably fit in it, right? And kind of just put myself in a budget and just really just started looking, right?
Gotcha.
And making a lot of phone calls and talking to a lot of people
But you knew you were going to upgrade.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome.
172. How many horsepower?
I have a 182. It's
182.
It's a 182 Papa, but it has the Texas Skyway conversion, so it's got the upgraded Continental in it. So it's about 320 horse.
Oh, very nice. Okay.
So it's not turbo, but you get that same. Yeah. In the power band, you get that same
high performance
kick.
She's beefy.
Yeah, she wants to fly for sure.
I was all excited when I went to get it. So I went and got my high performance in a 182 out of Glendale so I could log time in your plane. And I remember the first time I took off in it, I'm like, well, this sucks. Like, this isn't what I remember out of a 182 because that one only had, what's a standard?
220.
Yeah, that's what it was. I'm like, this is nothing.
This is no fun.
I'm curious how much, because I'm looking at, have you kind of have an idea what a Cirrus, maybe a Generation 3 Cirrus cost?
You're a couple $100,000, I would assume, right?
Couple.
Yeah.
I mean, depending on what year, but.
Well, right now the 182s, I know we've talked about it. I'm always looking at trade a plane and things like that, hangar, and they're not getting cheaper.
Yeah. Well, what would you say your 182 probably worth today?
I'm not, based on what Mark told me, I don't know, what do you think, 150,
160, 170, if not more.
Yeah.
What year is it? Is it the...
What is that?
What year is it?
76.
76, okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
But with the beefed up engine, and it's in great shape. It's...
So what is when you had the previous aircraft?
Yep.
So you already knew what some of the associated costs that came with that. So I was looking. I'm currently looking at potentially getting a Cirrus, maybe the beginning of next year, and I'm starting to see the process that goes with it. And obviously, it appears that the insurance company really is the one that controls all of these. Not even that, the finance company as well. There's certain things they require you to be able to have and prove before you even, when it comes to equipment. So what are some of the associated costs that are like, okay, you need to have this before we can give you the finance if you did finance this aircraft?
Yeah, and maybe the process has changed, but it was pretty straightforward, right? I mean, as long as I had my private pilot with my high performance endorsement, and I think I had to get 4 hours of dual instruction on it and have somebody sign off on it. But I bought the plane in Tennessee, so actually flew to Tennessee with a instructor, and then he and I flew the plane back. So I was able to get all the time I needed on the trip across country.
Very smart.
Just to back up a moment, how'd you find that plane?
I think it was on something like Trade a Plane. I mean, I was all over the web looking, and I just saw it was a Texas Skyway conversion, right, and got all excited because of the horsepower, and called the guy and just had a great conversation with him. He's a very passionate owner. Like he was very passionate about his plane, and always hangared. He's the one who did the Texas Skyway conversion, right? Knew every rivet in that plane, and just went on for like a half an hour about it.
That's a good feeling.
Yeah,
the plane's taken care of.
That's true. Yeah.
And his wife was making him sell it because he was retiring, and they just bought this big old motorhome, and I guess they had some scary experiences in IFR.
Yeah.
Gotten some, to your point, single pilot IFR.
Absolutely.
And got a little scary and freaked her out. So she kind of stepped away from it. And he's like, yeah, she wants me to sell it. So
winner for you.
Yep.
So, so you need to be prepared then you can't look locally if you're trying to find a plane. You need to be able to.
No, it's got to be anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to. I'm the same way with cars. Like I'm only going to buy from a certain region. I'm probably not going to buy a plane that's been in Michigan,
right,
or Vermont, or right in the snow.
Right. Good point.
This plane was in Tennessee most of its life, in the South, living in a hangar.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. Seems a lot of the aircraft I'm looking at are in Florida, but yeah, you have to be able to go anywhere, like you said.
Yep.
But okay.
Yeah, Florida too. You got to worry about salt.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So get that corrosion factor.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna ask where you park it because I don't want to. But so you park. It's parked on the hangar, not a hangar, but on a. Is it hangar?
It's 50-50. So I park in the cooler months. I park on the tarmac.
Okay.
And there's a gentleman who lives in Canada but owns a hangar.
Okay.
And so he spends his winters here. And so in the winter he uses the hangar, and I park in the tarmac. And then when he goes home during the summer here, I park in his hangar. So for the hottest parts of the year, I get to leave it in a hangar, which is kind of nice.
Okay, because that's one of the things I was noticing with I was looking at some of the requirements with the insurance company, which is almost the same as a finance company. Some of these aircraft, they require you to have a hangar.
Yeah.
It's like
really.
You have to have a hangar, fully paid. Show me where you park the aircraft, and so forth. And it's like, so you have to go out and get an hangar as well, which is another finance.
That's crazy.
Problem,
Yeah.
But some of these, depending on what generation or whatever year you get, some of these Siriuses go up to $800,000.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely ridiculous.
Well, it's all relative, right? It's relative to your pocketbook, right? So
that's true.
For some people, that's
absolutely
doable.
Okay, awesome. So I was curious because I was running down the operational costs for just like a Generation 2 Sirius. How often do you fly your aircraft? Would you say?
Yeah, I probably average 50 hours a year, average.
Oh,
so
really?
Not a lot, right?
Okay.
Not a lot.
50 hours a year. That's
It's low. And when I do the math, I don't like doing the math on my hourly cost, right? Because clearly it's high. But with my wife not flying, right? I have kids who enjoy flying sometimes, but I probably don't fly as much, really, just because my wife doesn't fly. So I'll get to occasionally fly it for work, do something, or it's Mark's my weekend wife, and flying. We'll occasionally get to put some hours in it, but I don't fly a ton of hours.
Okay.
Well, and the maintenance stuff doesn't help either.
No.
Like what maintenance stuff? Like, give me, like, what kind of maintenance stuff? Like, do you? So how? So these are the things I'm trying to figure out. Obviously, there's an annual.
Yep.
What's your generally?
My budget for annual?
Yeah. What's your general cost, I should say?
Yeah. So I usually budget $2,500 a year for the annual. And then any upgrades I want, right? So if there's something I want to swap out on the plane, additional, like, windshield or glass, or upgrading some interior plastic, right? I'll try to time it out over the years. But really for the general, just hey, no upgrades. You're just going to do an annual. It's anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500.
Okay. Have you ever incurred any other unexpected?
Oh yeah. Oh hell yeah. Yeah.
So how about I'd say that just explain maybe this last year.
Yeah.
'Cause you've had some.
Yeah,
things.
and it's overall. So I've been an owner for 20 years now, right?
Okay.
And generally, like with the Musketeer, it was pretty consistent. Like it was probably $1,200 to $1,500 a year in maintenance. The engine had come out of an overhaul, so it was still
All right.
wasn't a whole lot. So I could pretty much depend on that. But with the 182. For the most part, I've fallen in that price range for the annuals. But one year I got hit with a $16K bill.
Ooh.
Right? Had to have some cylinders replaced.
Wow.
Right? It was some, so you don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't know.
You can budget, but
budget all
Yeah.
you want, but the reality is,
all right. And there's always the unexpected stuff, like
Yeah.
when we went up to Big Bear
Yep.
and almost got stranded.
yep.
So what happened with that?
Oh, we had gone up to Big Bear from Phoenix, and then went to take off, and then what was it? We had a magneto issue during run up,
Yep.
and I forget what the cause was. Was it a ground or something?
Yeah, there was a ground issue, so we lost one of the mags. Right, it would just die on us during the
Oh,
run
no.
up, and we were in Big Bear on a Sunday, and there's no rental cars. We were like, oh man, what are we gonna do?
There was, but
It was
I
a
was
long
heading
way
down
to
the
go.
hill pretty quick to try to get one.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
But that's the other thing of like going in a plane. Like you rent a plane, it's like, well, if I rented the Cessna from Chandler and I flew it to Big Bear and it had a maintenance problem, I'd be on the phone with the guy and be like, well, I got to get home, so I'm gonna go home,
Yeah, and you figure it out.
and your
True.
plane's gonna be here. Whereas we had to go figure it out,
And get it home.
What did you do? How'd that work out?
So it was interesting. So there's no maintenance shop
Yeah.
on the field up there. So the airport manager, I don't know if he's a manager, but somebody from the admin came
FBO.
out and said, hey, there's really nobody around, but we know this old timer who lives in the community. Maybe he'll come out and take a look at it. So I'm like, listen, I'll take anything at this point.
Wow.
So this guy comes out, and when he said old timer, he was an old timer. Like I'm talking in his well into his 80s.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, this isn't gonna go well, right? So he asked a couple questions, and he wanted to get under the dash to see if there was a short or something, and I had to like take out a whole bunch of shit and help him wedge himself
Oh
in
my
there.
God.
I'm like, I felt so bad for him, and I'm like, Dan, we're just wasting
Guy was
time
working his
here.
ass off though.
And then he like just goes in his trunk and he's pulling out these old tools and he's connecting stuff, my mags and stuff, and he goes, all right, I think I know what's going on. And he goes, I'm just going to remove this wire, and we're just going to make both mags hot, and you'll be okay. We'll get you home. And so he did. He said, but hey, make sure you put a note on your prop, because this prop's going to be hot 100% of the time. So don't
Go pulling on.
go
the prop.
pulling on it, because it'll start. But he got us home.
Yeah,
Very nice.
Which
because
was cool.
at that point I was in an Uber heading down to Redland, which was like 45 minutes
At least. One
So-
way, yeah.
one way. So then I was it was probably I left at 12:10 or something, I'm gonna say, and the rental car place closed at 1. So if I didn't get there on time, they would have been closed. He would have been up in Big Bear, no plane, no ride. I would have been in Redland, no car, no hotel, no nothing.
Well, that's the fun, man. That's the fun part.
That's the adventure.
There's the adventure.
You know?
But that's the,
Yeah, it is. You know,
and that's, I think that's probably the first time, right?
Certainly with me, yeah.
Well, maybe the second time. I think I got stuck up in Henderson once. I lost my front strut, gave out on me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I ended up leaving it in Henderson. But that was easy, right? Just go over to
Yeah, that's
Vegas
Yeah.
and fly home. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think I've only been, in 2 situations where, from a maintenance perspective, I was potentially stranded somewhere. Yep.
Awesome, man. Awesome. What's some of the coolest places you've been with your aircraft?
Well, I think the trip across country was kind of neat. Stopping in the middle of nowhere, Texas, where they still have the, they have the airport cars, right?
Yeah.
So the loaners, and it's like this old
Oh, absolutely.
30-year-old cop car with the seats all torn out and the keys just sitting
Really?
in it. And yeah.
Where's this
Yeah.
at?
It was in somewhere in middle of Texas.
So what are some of the other general aspects when it comes to owning aircraft? You think probably
Yeah, I think it's always about understanding what your mission is, right? Like,
Yeah.
what how do you fly your plane? What do you want to use it for, right? Because like you said, the range of prices in airplanes is significant, right?
Absolutely.
You can go pay $50,000 or you can pay $1 million, right?
Yeah.
For a single engine. And so what's your mission? What's your budget? What are you willing to sacrifice on? What are you not willing to sacrifice on?
absolutely. If I can get out of this this phase of because I'm in this phase of
Wanting a Cirrus? Yes, you should get out of that phase.
this phase of I think I'll be able to where I've flown a lot because when I was as a flying instructor trying to accumulate my hours,
Yeah.
I was flying 8 hours a day every day, up to the minimum and the maximum of whatever it is, 100 hours a month, whatever it is. But I was flying a lot every day. And, after a while, you started, accumulating a lot of things was happening. You're like, man, I missed that one. That could have gone bad.
Yep.
And it's a weekly thing where you're kind of like, man. And it is a point where you're like, okay, I need to get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Because if I don't, something's going to happen. And it's
You
also.
mean get the hell out of here as in I need to stop instructing and move on?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was getting to a point where it was a group of people, of individuals, where we were like, all right, it was happening to all of us continuously. And it was more about managing how are we going to manage not crashing today or not deal with all this little stuff that's going to happen today, And so for me, I was able to transition out of that, but I still love flying,
Mm-hmm.
And so getting back into it is hard. I find it's hard for me to just let loose and trust the aircraft and and trust the fact that because for me, honestly, the worst way to go for me is like crashing in the plane.
Oh,
It really is.
See, mine's getting stabbed by a hobo. But we all have.
We all have our thing.
Yeah.
Number 2 is freaking maybe eaten by a shark. But number 1,
Oh,
is,
that would suck. I would much rather crash an airplane.
But if I can get out of this phase of that, which I think I'd be able to, go in and just rent a Cessna, I think I'll be fine. But it's really hard for me. So that's the reason why my mind is on the Cirrus. It might just be a psychological thing.
Yeah. What? So you just want the bells and whistles. You want to be able to touch a button and know that everything's okay.
It's that cap system they have there, that parachute. You heard about that?
Uh-huh. Yep.
He's looking at me like, okay.
I know. I feel the same
Like,
way.
get out of here with that.
You just fly the plane.
Yeah.
But it's maybe that false sense of security, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is weird because I'm an experienced pilot,
Absolutely.
Didn't they recently have a Cirrus crash where the pilot actually died after they pulled the chute?
So it is possible if there are procedures, just
Yeah.
like any other
Yeah.
procedure.
No, I think they followed the procedure
Oh, they
okay.
did?
They just landed in a bad spot, right? And I think the passenger survived, but
Ugh.
Or the pilot.
I could be spreading rumors, but that was what I heard.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. But my overall goal, and it's something I want to do this year, or beginning of next year, I want to be able to own my own aircraft. You're talking
Yep.
about your mission and so forth.
Yep.
Because it's something I love. Own my own aircraft. I want to be able to fly into these small towns, but then you're talking about getting stranded. But the small towns and, go in and maybe wine and dine, learn the culture, the food,
Yep.
the people.
The freedom's amazing.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
write about it. And
Yep.
and just be able. Another thing is, I spend a lot of time commercially on the airline. Is a lot of time. I fly more. I'm airborne more than I'm on the ground
Right.
with my life. And I'm really getting tired of airports.
Yeah.
Like going through airports and TSA and so I want to be able to, like you said, the freedom, get on my own plane, fly to little towns and enjoy it and fly out when I want to, when I feel like it and so forth. But so that's really my main goal.
Yep.
It's just for that. But
So now then that brings me to a question for both of you. So with that said, I mean, you said there was benefits, Steve, of having other people involved with the airplane as well.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
So, one, Richard, would you entertain then going into an airplane with other parties? And Steve, would you ever go into an airplane with other parties again, or do you like just being on your own?
Yeah.
I mean, aside the fact that it depends on if you can do it or not, right? Let's assume that you both have the ability. It's no question I can do it on my own. It's not the thing, but there's benefits of having somebody else.
Yep. Yeah. And I've been both. So Rich, you go first.
Absolutely. So I've been doing the math on this in the series, and budgeting. Obviously, you want to budget to make sure you have the cumulative costs and whatever, or budget to be able to maintain that kind of hobby, if you want to call it, and so forth.
Yep.
And if you're smart financially, I was actually thinking about creating a club around that particular aircraft, if that's the route I take, and definitely have 3 or 4 partners with it. And I think that's the best option, especially where I'm at in my life, is to do that, in my opinion. So absolutely, I would definitely do that. Yeah.
Steve?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've learned to never say never.
Yeah.
But it's there's just something about it's the hassle factor, right? I mean, I think it's difficult to find people who match you perfectly, right? In terms of, okay, I have the platform. How much do I want to invest in it? What do I want to upgrade? What do I not want to upgrade?
Yeah.
Right.
When can I fly? When can I not fly? Right? And if you got 3-4 people, now you got to create rules and you got to have schedules and you have to make sure, you have to have votes and right. And that's just, for me, the joy of flying is just the freedom, right?
Right.
Of knowing that I just, whenever I got the time, I do it, and I don't have to worry about, somebody else not.
Tom's got the plane the day.
Yeah, or this guy never follows the procedures and he's always
Yeah.
smashing it into the ground and he's burning up tires or
Right.
right.
Yeah, man.
And I know there's lots of partnerships that do really well, right? I think the key is it's just like a marriage, right? If you can find the right partner, I think that would be the key. Like if I found somebody that I knew we were like dialed in and it would work, I would consider it. But I've enjoyed the freedom of not having to go through that hassle.
Yeah, man. I can definitely see what you're saying with that too.
So it's that kind of weighs against the time that the airplane's on the ground. So your cost per hour increase because you're not flying a lot per year, right?
Well, but the flip side of that for me would be if I fly a 1976 once 182 because that's what my budget allows me to fly, right? If I went Richard's route, I'd be flying a Columbia or a Cirrus, right? Because I'd be with 3 or 4 other guys, so I could afford more plane.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes
Right.
sense. Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
So I have another question on to kind of move things along here, if you don't mind.
If I don't mind, I don't mind.
So as an aircraft owner, going back from when you were a private, I see this a lot in some of the chats, and I think I talked to you about it at one point that I was thinking about maybe spending 30-40 grand and buying like a 150. Remember, just to build time.
right.
And then we did crunch the math, and it was like going to be another to get me from the point that I was at hour wise to the point where I wanted to get hour wise. It was going to be like 50 grand in fuel.
Right.
And that was before it was $7 a gallon.
Right. Yep.
So
$50K in fuel for you to build your hours?
yeah,
In the 150?
in the 150. So it would have been like 40,000, let's say, for the 150 that I bought, or 152 or whatever.
Yeah.
Plus, at the time, I think fuel was like $3.50 a gallon, we'll say. And we were like, oh, that many hours in fuel is like another $50,000. So you might as well go find another way to do this. And then on 150, you're not affording yourself like it would take me 3 hours to get to Tucson from Chandler. You know?
That's the thing, yeah.
So, I mean, really all it is a time builder.
Yeah.
But my question is, as an owner now, I see a lot of people wondering if they should buy the plane to build the time or to... Like, if you weren't a private pilot now, but having your owner experience, would you buy your own plane to do private pilot through whatever certificates you wanted to get? Or would you just rent and go to a school and do it? Like, what do you think you would do? Is ownership worth...
Building time? Like,
or just build a certificate?
So I think when the with the Musketeer, I think it made a ton of sense. Right, that platform and building time and owning that plane.
Yeah.
again, because you had the freedom to do it whenever you needed to. You didn't have to worry about schedules, right?
Right.
You just kind of went and did it, and it was a relatively inexpensive platform.
So if
to
you had
fly.
to start over again, would you buy a plane first and then be like, go find an
No,
instructor?
knowing what I know today,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
sure, I would.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, and you always run into those, listen, it's, I remember the time doing my pre-flight, before going out on a night flight, walking around with my flashlight and walk past the cow and something, catches my eye. And I look inside and realize that there's a drill sitting on top of the engine inside the cowling.
What?
Right. And so I look at the maintenance log and realize that they had worked on it, but it was the night before and the plane had been flown twice already.
Oh, my
And
gosh.
nobody noticed that there was a drill in the cowling, right?
This is when you were a student?
I was a student, yeah.
Oh, man.
That's
Yeah.
So
funny.
you're the first person to catch it then?
Yeah,
Oh, boy.
right. And I caught it at night, right? They
Wow.
flew during the day and just never saw it.
Wow.
So it's the, I know how I maintain my plane, right? I'm very comfortable with it. The platform, some of these other planes, 97 Victor's been around how long? And
Yeah.
listen, it's obviously a good plane. It's lasted a long time. But,
Yeah.
you don't know who's flown it before you, and you don't
Right.
know,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
really don't know how
absolutely.
the maintenance is on it. So
Yeah. I guess. I think that's it. I have. You have any other questions that you?
Yeah, Steve, so your dream plane, you had all the money right now. I think I already know what you're going to say, but
go ahead. What am I going to say?
I think you're going to say the Columbia.
No, Pilatus for sure.
Wow. Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah,
If I said any
Yeah.
money. Really, you'd buy that just for you?
for me, hell yeah.
Your wife won't get. Well,
I-
she might get in that
might
airplane.
get in that airplane. Yeah, she
That might be worth it
Yeah.
then.
Your wife
Yeah.
she doesn't fly with you anymore.
No, she gets motion sickness, so she has
okay.
no interest.
Oh,
yeah.
really?
But the Columbia, that's on my, that's my next.
Oh, so you're gonna get another plane?
Yeah.
As you plan, really?
Yep.
You familiar with the Columbia?
Not like Columbia, but Pilatus. I am. Did you say Pilatus?
Yeah, said Pilatus first. Yeah, that's probably not in the budget, but
The Pilatus.
yeah.
I think you could pick one up. I saw one on Trade a Plane. I think it was. I want to say 1.8 or something.
Yeah, so
you got that.
You can make one payment, one
Sell the
flight.
182.
We're good.
Cash.
Yeah.
Sell the 182. You can go out on Discovery flight. and just be like, I don't
with
want
the
it.
price of airplanes now, I am almost tempted. I don't think I'll do it, but the prices are so high right now.
Yeah.
Right. Is
Yeah.
sell my plane and just hold.
Mhm.
Right, because we're gonna see something here in the next couple.
Oh,
of years.
absolutely. I agree
Right,
with you.
and then go get it.
Everything's so inflated right now. So everything's like
Yep.
the like right now is not a good time to be buying aircraft or houses, but
Or used cars.
or used car.
Or gas. Or food.
Yeah, yeah, and the
Pretty
price
much
of
anything
gas.
that costs money.
Yeah. I mean, I was just, in prep for this, I went and looked at my, because I have a spreadsheet to calculate my annual costs and, what it's costing me per hour. And, with the cost of fuel now, it's up like, 60% of my operating budget's fuel,
Wow.
right? Whereas when it's around $3, it's around, 30%, 31%.
Yeah. Wow.
But it
What's
makes
so
a big
what
difference.
is your hourly cost then?
It depends
Let's say like
dependent
last
hours.
summer when the gas was
Yeah, it's
super cheap.
probably around $2.05
Yeah.
an hour, right?
That's not too shabby for that plane. Because if you rented a 182, just standard 220,
Well,
it'd
and
be
that's
like
that's
$180
at
an hour.
that's at 50 hours, right? If I flew 100 hours, right, then that number comes way down,
right.
right?
Oh,
then
good point.
I'm in
Yeah. Probably
Well,
half
let's do it, man.
not quite half, but
on
it's
the range.
yeah.
The Cirrus was an operating cost an hour because I was doing the math. It's just probably $100 a little more than it's like 3 something
yeah.
an hour. So I'm like, man, I probably should just keep renting then.
Yeah. Well, I mean the operating costs, the insurance is not as much as you think, at least for my plane, right? I think I'm paying about $1,500 a year for insurance,
Okay.
which isn't that bad.
No, not at all.
Right. And at my the cost, I'm assuming a loan on the plane as well,
Mm-hmm.
right? That loan payments in that
Absolutely.
as well
Yes,
as the
it is, yeah.
the reserve for the engine.
Absolutely.
Right? So
Yeah.
calculate that in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's,
It's go ahead. Sorry.
that's one thing we didn't talk about as far as cost-wise goes is that overhaul you mentioned. So
Yeah.
how does that work? When do you have to get your engine overhauled? And we already knew that The
That's a good
Musketeer
point,
was
yeah.
what, 20 grand? You
Yeah.
said?
So I budgeted 40,000 for that overhaul, right? So that's about
Every
2,200. I think the TBO is actually 2,500 on the engine. I figure 22, but budget wise.
okay.
So I just add $18 an hour,
Gotcha.
and that
So another thing to think about, and that's what you want to look at when you look at planes. Sometimes you see one that's like, wow, that plane is worth way more than that, and then you look and they give you the overhaul time, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, it's got like 25
always
hours left
yeah,
on
correct.
Yeah.
And then I'm buying
Yeah.
a new one. But that's a big thing, especially if you're when I was in the partnership, we set up we actually had a separate banking account
Yeah.
just for the engine reserve.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. There would be like initial payment cost for that platform for the overhaul, and there was like an initial. So it would have been someone that's are able to afford and get into the platform to be able to do it.
Yep.
There's an initial cost just to be in. There's a refundable amount just in case you have a friend like yours that go in and wrecks it or whatever, which is pretty traditional for like a club.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But like I've been looking through this and I was like, man, maybe sometimes maybe I should think about getting, but I don't want to get anything, too old. Excuse me, whatever that means. I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
Listen, it's all in the airframes will last forever,
Yeah.
right? It's really the power plant, right? That's where you're going to spend your money. So
Yeah. And we don't need parachutes, Richard.
I mean, yeah, I agree.
just put one on your
And
back.
auto-
Put one on your back.
There you go. That's
It's a lot
cheap.
cheaper.
That's gotta be cheaper.
No, you're probably right, but I'm working my way up to that, I guess. I was thinking about going out and go rent a Cessna over there in Scottsdale and do a little more flying because the Cirrus. What do you think it costs per hour?
you should definitely fly multiple platforms before you decide what you're going to buy.
Oh, I've
Yeah.
flown everything. So I've flown all.
Yeah.
I've flown all of them.
Okay.
What do you mean multiple? Like, give me an example.
Yeah, like so. Go, come with me flying in a 76 182, right? Just to
Okay.
see the difference between the
Okay.
Cirrus, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
It actually has more room than the Cirrus too, which is nice.
he bitches about that all the time. By the
I
way,
know.
It's because you're flying a $800,000 airplane and
And
the
you're
person next
squished.
to you bumping your elbow.
Yeah.
yeah.
You kidding me?
There's a few things that is a little bit disappointed.
The
You know.
seatbelts.
And what does that cruise at? What are you cruising at?
180, something like that. 180. Yeah, you're going faster. 180. You can cruise it. Yeah,
And then how many?
that's the
What kind of fuel? How many gallons are you burning
15 gallons an hour.
at 180? That's pretty good.
No, so that's at a cruise at
Yeah.
like what 80% or maybe 75% cruise. You'd be burning 15 gallons.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
But
don't think
then
you're doing quite 180. I think it's like 150, 160, isn't it?
no, dude, because you put your flaps down on 150. No, it's it's
I'll take your word for it. I
yeah,
just,
180. You can or maybe 180, 160. What fast were we going last time? I don't freaking.
we talking about ground speed or we're talking about airspeed, right?
Yeah, you can get up to like 175.
I don't
right?
remember,
Yeah.
honestly. I don't remember.
Yeah,
That just
gotta
seems
look.
fast.
And then
Because what do you cruise at?
Like 150, 155.
yeah, it's about,
It's about the same because you actually have more horse than the Cirrus. You're at 320 something.
Yeah, 320.
oh, you're at 320.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's a lot of power.
And
But I'm a lot heavier, I would imagine.
you think? Because I was just about to say you're lighter.
Because they had a parachute in there as well.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So, what's your max takeoff? What's your?
Should know it, but
I know, dude. It's the same here. Like,
Yeah.
you're like, I
I
gotta
always,
check.
always looking to
Yeah,
weight and balance my app.
34. I think 34 is the Cirrus.
I think
What
I'm
the-
like 24 or something like that.
Useful
Uh,
or just payload
no, that's
total?
just total.
max.
Yeah, total max weight.
max.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how much like the payload. It's not much. That's one I think about an aircraft too. Is that maybe you and I, maybe definitely Steve in the back, but you're getting like people my size. You
Yeah.
put a couple of heads over with. You can't,
Yeah.
you can't-
Well, yeah. That's the
know?
problem with all these small planes is
but you
just can't
think
carry much
$800,000 you'd be able to take 4 people.
Yeah.
Load it up and
and not bump elbows.
But I'll definitely be interested in going, checking out your, 182.
Yeah.
I heard a lot about it, so, from somebody.
Somebody.
Hey, man. I got a lot of hours in it.
Yeah.
Thankful. I'm
Mark's-
very thankful to Steve.
Mark's intimate.
He's got me. He's gotten me a long way in my logbook.
That's
So
good.
It's very much appreciated.
But I've flown
A
every
lot of fun too.
Sorry, every. I mean, obviously the 172. Not everything, but within that class, I guess Seminoles, and I've been able to compare. I just love the way the aircraft, the seatbelt. We mentioned the seatbelt because the seatbelt comes over and it like relaps on your. But apparently it's a blast chute, it's an impact chute.
Yep.
But it's very uncomfortable. But I didn't know what it was until I researched it. But that's what it is. But I just love the way. I love everything about it. I think it's just a great aircraft to fly.
It is a good bird.
But also, to my guilt, I'm also a push button pilot.
Yeah.
I'll admit it.
I have I'll mount one of those Staples easy buttons in my plane before you fly it, so at least you feel like you have a button you can push to.
All right, we're turning final. That's easy.
Take off. Yeah, man, absolutely. But yeah, man, awesome. And one of these days, I'll take you up in the series if there's
That'd be
something
great.
you'd be interested in doing.
Yeah.
I think you'll like it as well.
Yeah.
That's the
It's
single
Just
stage.
make sure your seat's locked.
Yeah, man, awesome. So, other trips do you fly your aircraft is for personal use, right? It's
It
not
is
for,
correct. Yep. I mean, I'll once in a while have to fly to a client location. I can bill back hours to the company for reimbursement.
Very nice. Because I was thinking about this aircraft would be within one of my company. It would be in my blogging company.
Yeah.
So I'll figure a way how to write that thing off.
Yeah. Yeah. Got to be creative.
Well, as long as you're doing that, how about hiring a pilot? And you can write me off.
Yeah. What's your so do you have any plans coming up when it comes to like trips? Because I'm thinking about going to Vegas in the series in the next couple, I don't know, weeks or so.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think if I get the plane back this weekend, I was going to go up to the what's the outdoor adventure show? The
Overland
Expo's up in Flagstaff this weekend. So you can actually walk to it from the Flagstaff airport.
Yeah.
So I was thinking of doing that.
Oh, what is this? It's
The Overland Expo. It's like
is it aviation based?
outdoor. No,
No.
it's
Oh, okay.
outdoors
Gotcha.
camping, and people
okay.
build up trucks and vans. And,
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
The
it's pretty
van
sweet.
life.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, no other trips planned.
Yeah, I'll give you a call. Us three can probably we'll fit in the series. We'll go out. You golf?
Oh yeah.
You golfer?
I'm not very good, but I
Oh,
got
me either. This guy over here. But we'll go out
Because I
and,
golf more than you guys do. It doesn't make me good. Trust me.
But yeah, definitely it'll be fun. We'll go out. We'll do a quick trip, and sit down. I won't drink because I'll be flying back, but I'll pretend to drink or something.
We'll drink for you. We're good at that.
I had to do that, man, a few times. Like there's a few people, and it's like, man, I can't even take a sip, But
Yeah, I was trying to get Mark to buy for Christmas. I wanted him to buy himself a little scooter, so we could put scooters in the back of the
still
plane.
down.
And then because we like going to these kind of offbeat airports, but when you get there, you can't. We've been like 3-4
yeah.
miles from town.
Well, when we went to we flew to the caverns of Arizona. Is that what it's called? The caverns?
It was Grand Canyon Caverns. That was awesome.
Yeah, the Grand Canyon Caverns.
Oh.
So first time we ever had to do a actual true soft feel approach a landing and takeoff because it's just a gravel
runway. Yeah,
with weeds growing out of it.
Yeah.
Wow,
Just in
so
the middle of
you're-
nowhere. There was
you're,
grass stains on the prop.
Yeah.
It was
Really?
awesome.
Yeah.
But we
Oh,
had to
okay.
hike
Awesome.
from get to the airport, quote unquote airport,
right.
to the caverns. It was like,
Half a mile.
oh, I thought
Maybe
it
more.
It felt more than that.
Yeah, maybe
Uphill.
more. It was uphill. Yeah.
So yeah, some scooters would be nice.
But that was a sketch runway for sure.
That was a lot
Wow.
of fun though.
Yeah.
so you guys are real pilots.
I don't know about that, but it was fun.
How long was that runway? It's
It was plenty long. It was really narrow.
Yeah.
Not well maintained. Like you said, there were a bunch of weeds in it, and we flew over it a couple times just to
okay.
make sure.
Yeah.
Taking off. I was because that's around the Grand Canyon area. Is that where it's at?
Yeah, just south of the Grand Canyon.
Is it mountainous? A little mountainous area?
No,
there?
it's pretty
No.
flat there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That airport. Was it West Grand Canyon Airport? It's where they built the glass walkway.
yeah.
That airport used to be awesome.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was. There you used to be able to fly up there and literally walk to the edge of the canyon, like just spectacular
That's awesome.
view. And then when they built that walkway,
Mm-hmm.
the Indian community put fences up,
Oh, really?
so you can't do the walk
anymore.
anymore. Yeah, but that place was awesome.
Brutal.
Awesome, man.
Progress.
Yeah.
So are you still working with your company currently? Or
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
And
Awesome.
for the record, once I finish up the CFI and I jump into my double I, he will be getting his instrument rating.
Yeah.
I owe him that.
Yep.
Oh, you're
We'll
gonna
do
hook
that.
him up? Are you gonna hook him up with the instrument stuff?
He's gonna. Yeah,
Oh,
I got to get that done. That's on my list. That's.
I think every
well
pilot
past
should
due.
do it.
Well, if you need, I mean, I'm not getting into your whatever.
Oh, you don't have time to do it, so you're not going to steal.
But yeah, give me a call if any of you guys anyway. By the
Yeah,
way.
for sure.
Oh, by the way, you can call me. By the way, if you
Oh, I
something
will.
you need, I'll sign you off. I'm not gonna, whatever it is. But if you even need something you need, give me a call. I mean, I'll
Sweet.
go up and I'll put some stuff in your book or whatever. But yeah, awesome, man. Awesome. Any other question you have, Steve?
No.
Or Mark? I'm calling you.
I'll
Steve.
think of some later.
On the mark.
but-
Yeah.
On the mark, yeah. No, on the mark this week.
You should definitely come on more often and just hang out and talk. Aviation.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Tell stories
Yeah.
and whatnot.
Lots of stories.
I have a lot of stories we can definitely go over. Go over some incidents and some accidents and kind of evaluate and see what some people are doing and why they're doing it. There's a few things I see and I was like a kid, you're talking about a Sears getting some guy crashing or we were pulling the chute, but I still see guys going in and crashing and it's like, like, what the heck is going on? Like, why would you? And it's all self-induced. Like it could have been avoided, in my opinion.
Oh,
but
yeah.
but and again, I'm not there, so. But
Well, yeah. I mean, you always find yourselves in these situations where it's always the chain of events, right?
Absolutely.
And it takes one thing to break the chain. But I think we've all been there as pilots, or even just in normal life, right? You're distracted, right? You're rushing. Got the itis a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And you just got to try to not put yourself in those situations.
Right.
absolutely.
Recognize them early.
Yeah,
And acknowledge them.
Yep.
And I think that's the main difference this is my opinion, and as I get back into GA, it's just that right there we're talking about. And even though it might happen so often in the transport world, but then in GA, I feel like you get in these situations so much more. Like it go off the chart, in my opinion, where you're like, God, the hell did that happen? Versus, this is my opinion, versus in the airline, is that you get off the plane, you walk off, and you're like, okay, that was good. But I feel like you have to be able to brush those off and I learned from that. What do you think about that? Because you fly probably a little more often. Do you feel like that's the case with you, or you don't feel like?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's been times when I haven't flown. Like,
Yes,
I'll-
absolutely.
I'll get there and I'll start doing my pre-flight, right? And I'll notice myself drifting, or I'm a karma guy too. So there's been times when my plane, like, the battery died and it shouldn't have. Like, I had just flown it and I couldn't get it to start. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not flying today.
Yeah.
Right?
Smart.
It's just
Absolutely. So absolutely, I 100% agree, and that's how I have to think like that in the sense. Okay, well, why? Because I don't fly GA often as much either. So, like my next flight I go on in the Sirius, we flew what? How long did we fly? It was like 2 months ago.
Yeah, we went up to Sedona.
Is that the last time we flew?
Yeah.
That's a long time. Well,
Yeah.
what month was that? Was in
I
March?
don't remember.
February.
Yeah,
So-
that sounds about right, March.
So when I go back and I'm always like I'm trying to. I feel like that creates a level of
anxiety.
Stress.
yeah
Yeah,
there-
stress,
Yeah.
not anxiety.
Well,
'Cause we
and
know-
and sometimes that's good, right? You got to find
Absolutely.
that balance of, hey, I'm on my game. I got to pay
Yeah.
attention. I'm not going to skip anything on my checklist. But when it gets to the point of it's fear,
Yeah.
then-
Right.
then you're in trouble.
Right.
Absolutely.
Good stress, bad stress.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you and I, that
Anxiety's
instance
bad.
in Sedona, we had just we were on high
Right.
alert.
I used that in my last stage check. I was telling them because they asked me to explain the difference between anxiety and stress, and I told them that again. Then there's good stress, there's bad stress,
Yeah.
and I was like, the good stress saved us because
Yep.
we were on alert.
Absolutely.
Whereas if I was just screwing around on my phone because
Yeah.
we're all relaxed and complacent,
Yeah.
I might not have been on those breaks.
Absolutely. Yeah, man.
So, yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's what I feel. I mean, it's good stress. I feel
Yeah.
and I like it. I enjoy it. I mean, I love it. I always feel great. I mean, I love it.
you'd have to trust yourself, is what it comes down to.
Which I do.
Well, Yes and no.
All right, here we go. I love this. Here we go. There we go. We just had this conversation. Let's have it, Steve.
Well, you are correct.
Yes.
You have to trust yourself, but you also have to trust your airplane, and you got to trust the other pilots in the sky with you, right?
Right.
You have to trust the controllers, right? There's a lot of trust in the system.
Absolutely, but you have to trust in yourself to know that, okay, I'm familiar enough with this area. I know I'm familiar with what ATC is going to be doing or what the air traffic is going to be doing in this area. And then if you don't, then you need to trust yourself to be able to say, okay, what can I do to mitigate that and research this and know. And if you can't, then you have to then trust yourself to mitigate. Say, like you said earlier, I'm not going to fly that then.
Yeah. Which is good practice, right? But the reality is sometimes things are just not in your control, right?
Well, that's with anything in life, though.
Yeah. That helicopter accident out in Chandler, right? Guys were in the right. Somebody was in the right place. Somebody was in the wrong
Right.
place.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Right.
yeah, absolutely.
So when
100%.
good point. Back when I was teaching, they didn't have. Do you have traffic advisory in your aircraft?
Yeah.
You do.
Yep.
You're required to have it right now in the GA. That's the
ADSB with
ADSB.
Well, you're not required to have it in. You're only
Out.
required to have it out. Yeah.
which means everybody. Which means you can pick some.
Only if you're in the class Bravo Vale. So if you're in the vicinity of class
Oh, it's not-
Bravo, if you're out past that 20 nautical mile ring,
Right.
then it's still no man's land. There, no radio, no ADSB.
Right.
Keep your head on a swivel.
When I got hired on, so I flew for Transpec, which is one of the school I went to. I was an instructor there, Transpec Aviation Academy, and the individual that hired me, very nice guy. I got really close to him. I got a call one morning that said he was in a collision. It was a mid-air collision over at the Northwest practice area field with another aircraft that they were just cruising. You know, he was doing instructing and they were just cruising, and he died. And the craziest thing about it that really screwed me up for a while was that he was able to get the aircraft on the ground, and when they went out, and the other aircraft completely broke apart and fell apart and everything, but he was able to. He was two instructors on there. He was able to get the aircraft on the ground and everything was intact, everything in your body, but they still impact. They still passed away. And it was back when we weren't required to have any kind of. So we'll go out there in the practice area over that Deer Valley area, where back then you were looking and you were like 20 planes lined up, launching from all these flight schools, and it was busy and it was nonstop, blah blah blah. And we went out there and you just do it. You're like, this is it.
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing, kind of thing.
Yeah. You just ignore it.
Just ignore it, man. And it's like no traffic advisory. You just hopefully, look, and it's like, and then now I look back and it's like, for me, that is impossible for me to do now.
No,
what
my
I'm saying?
iPad went out the other day on a flight. I forget what I was doing. And I was doing a checkout on the Cessnas, and my iPad wouldn't work. And I made sure that the guy who was checking me out, I'm like, your iPad works, right? Because if it didn't, I'd be like, well, we're not flying. If I can't see traffic, no, forget it. Like,
Yeah.
no way. It's scary as hell.
But what I'm getting at is that you're talking about being comfortable in your abilities and confident. Is that I was confident back then that I can find traffic and see traffic and avoid traffic.
Right.
100%. Oh, I got this. I can look at it, I'll see it, and I'll avoid it, and I'll dodge it, and all that stuff. And the realistic thing is that can you really see traffic out there, really?
Well, that's the you see it now, like to Mark's point, you're staring at when it first came out, it was a distraction, right? I hated it, right? Because all you did was I see it on my iPad, I can't see it out the window, right? And there's so many times where you'll see it, right? But you on the iPad or the GPS, you look out the window, you never saw the plane.
Absolutely.
Cross with it half a mile from you, and never had it.
True. Yeah.
So
I get what you're saying, but those are the things I'm trying to, because it's just a trying to get my transition in my mind, because in the airline, everything is based, it's there, it's on the screen there, kind of thing. So, but yeah. Anyways,
It's a risk. You
Well, it's a good risk.
You accept it or you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well,
we-
and
we-
from Mark, like from my perspective, I'm so comfortable in the GA airspace because I don't know the commercial side,
That's-
right?
and that's the key,
It's
yeah.
Ignorance is bliss, right?
Absolutely.
Right,
It's-
exactly.
Yeah. Absolutely. You know.
Don't know what I don't know.
But it's fun. I love it. It really is. I enjoy it. I'll be doing it a lot
Listen,
more.
it's. I tell people when they say, "Hey, what's it like flying?" I said, "You know what? It's 99% pure pleasure,
Absolutely.
1% sheer terror."
Yeah.
But you feel very accomplished. You know, you can navigate all the way and get to where you're going and
Yeah.
land, and you're safe, and you tie the plane down, and
That's always the
Yeah,
best
it's-
feeling,
it
especially
is,
when you're
man.
going for a certificate or something. Like, the best feeling of a lesson is when it's done.
Right.
And
Accomplishment.
you're tying the airplane down. You're like, okay,
Thank
that's
God.
one more done. No screw ups. Especially
Yeah.
check rides.
But anyways, once again, it was good to have you, Steve, and we'll end it here.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Are we
guys.
out, Mark?
Appreciate it.
I think we're out.
We're out.
Later.
Yes.